What's up everybody? On today's video, racism is out of control in Southwest Florida schools. A recent article published by NBC2. The story published by Dave Elias relates the story of a student going to Bobcat High School, a new school in a subdivision that is in Charlotte County, but it's closer to Lee County. For all practical purposes, Bobcat Ranch, despite being in Charlotte County, is actually closer to the Fort Myers metropolitan area. I'm not going to include the details of the allegations because of how graphic they are, but I will include the link to his article on today's video, and you can read the story yourself. Not only did these students harass the girl by publishing videos of what they were doing, they also cropped out images. Not only were they harassing this girl in school, they're actually going onto social media, and well, the link is included to the article where you can see the graphic video and images yourself of what they were doing to this young girl in this Charlotte County school.
Oh, we would never do something like that, Jose. You're always blowing things out of proportion.
Well, you can just click on the link yourself and see exactly how they were treating this young girl. Now, I recently lived in Buckingham, Florida for a year, which is right outside of Bobcat Ranch, and I'm actually very familiar with this community. I would go to the Publix here, and I would spend some time at the park, and I witnessed young kids, I'm talking elementary or preschool kids, already showing signs of racism at the playground all the time. I remember one time I was at the playground and I noticed that a young girl wanted to play with the other kids, and the other kids pushed her away because she was different. This is the new Publix in Buckingham, Florida, which is again just a short drive away, and there's a group of little white kids that like to hang out outside with their squatted pickup trucks. I remember one day an elderly African American male was walking out in his walker from getting his groceries, and the group of young kids started to scream racist slurs at this elderly man who was walking to his car. So while living in this area for about a year, I could definitely tell that there's a lot of bullying, harassing, and all types of racist things going on, sadly, among the youth here. Now, some of the kids that were doing that actually were my neighbors that lived in the part of Lehigh, Buckingham where I lived, and I knew exactly what they were into because I drove around the neighborhood in my ATV and I would often run into them consuming illicit activities, and some of them as young as 10 years old are already being taught to do these illegal activities by their older peers. They'll buy their kids 7, 8, 9 years old an ATV and let the streets raise them, where they start to consume at a young age, and of course racism is prevalent in this area. And to make things worse, for the most part, a lot of these kids, their parents are actually police officers, which means that when they actually get in trouble, nothing happens to them. Now, right before I moved out of Lehigh Acres, one night I was driving my ATV and there was a group of young kids. I'm going to put their age at between maybe 18, 19. They were very young. And two of the girls that were with them recognized my YouTube channel. At the time, I had a really cool Honda ATV that was brand new, and I had a very cool pickup truck. And the kids were jealous that I had these things and that the girls liked the stuff that I had. A group of about 5 kids chased me down with sticks and tried to beat me in the woods because they were jealous that I had a nice ATV and a nice pickup truck, and apparently it bothered them because the girls that they were with liked the stuff that I had. Of course, I have a wife and I never hung out with none of those people. I just went out there and rode my ATV by myself and had a great time. But I realized that these kids, even though they were young, they had some very bad, evil, jealous intentions. And one thing that really makes the situation interesting is that unlike most communities in the United States where Hispanics or African Americans are the poorer group, when it comes to Charlotte, Collier, and Lee County, the vast majority of Southwest Florida, blacks actually have better analytics for income and drug use than whites. Take Charlotte County, where this racist school event happened. African Americans here have a lower drug overdose death rate and a lower murder rate than whites. The same thing can be said about income for this community. So you're not dealing in a situation where Hispanics and blacks are the poor minority. In this particular area of Lee County, blacks and Hispanics actually have better analytics for income, education, just about everything versus the white population. Numerically, African Americans and Hispanics are the minority in this part of Lee County, but economically, Criminally, they have much better analytics. Take, for example, Lee County, Florida, where the black population has a significantly lower drug overdose death rate than the white population. It's clearly the white population that has a drug problem. However, if you look at the school systems in Southwest Florida, Hispanics and blacks are disproportionately being dropped out or kicked out of schools simply because the teachers themselves play into the racism. Take this review on Google Maps from Riverdale High School, which is adjacent to this Bobcat Ranch High School. They mentioned that the students are constantly being bullied. Racism is open. The teachers know about the racism, but they're doing nothing about it. And many times when students complain about the situation, a lot of times they're forced to either drop out or go into alternative schools. He also mentions harassment. And the way the system of racist Southwest Florida school works is the following. Your student is getting picked on. Your student is being harassed. All the while the teachers and staff members are looking the other way. One day, the student snaps and fights back. This was how I personally was expelled from high school in Gulf Coast High School. I was being picked on by this racist white kid. He wore a camouflage shirt to school every day. He actually was allowed to carry his cell phone on the outside of his pocket, which we weren't even allowed to carry cell phones. One day, this student stole money from me openly in front of the entire classroom. The teacher saw it happen and looked the other way, but I snapped. When the class ended, I grabbed him by the neck and I did something pretty horrendous in retaliation. This is why I was expelled from Gulf Coast High School. I was being bullied by somebody non-stop. The teachers and the staff completely ignored it. But the moment that I retaliated because I had snapped and just had enough of the bullying and the harassment, I got expelled. I was sent to a program called Alternative Learning Center for 10 days. It's called Enhanced Assist in Collier County. This is where you start the path of ending up being expelled from your school. Even though in Collier County, African Americans have some of the best analytics for drug use, you can see in the chart from Florida Health how in Collier County, African Americans have always had much lower drug overdose death rates than whites. The year that I would have graduated, despite the school being almost entirely white or Hispanic, only having a few black kids, 3 black kids happened to end up being expelled that year because of allegedly being involved in drug use or other violent behaviors, which, if you go look at the analytics, you'll see that blacks aren't the demographic that's having the problem. It's the white population. Meanwhile, on that same trip where I ended up going to Enhanced Assist with 3 black kids, possibly the only 3 black kids in that entire school just all happened to be going to Enhanced Assist when I went to Enhanced Assist. In the same time period, a female white girl who was an open drug dealer and carried to school was caught with it. Now, despite her being caught with this incredibly crazy weapon in school, her daddy was a big-time police officer or lawyer, and she was just sent to Enhanced Assist. Had she been a Hispanic or African American, she would have been arrested. In fact, I almost got arrested for my incident that was nothing more than a school fight. However, here's this white girl bringing a piece to school, loaded, and she gets away with it because her daddy was a police officer. And she was, in fact, one of the biggest dealers in the entire school, if not the biggest dealer in the school, who even carried weapons to school, a high school. But because she was a white girl and her parents were powerful, she was able to get away with it. And the same thing's happening in Lee County, Florida. These white kids that harass other kids constantly get caught with loaded devices in school. Their parents are powerful, they're cops, they're related to the police, and they get away with it. But if a Hispanic student or a black student were able to do the same thing, you bet that their lives would be ruined. Now, Riverdale High School is no stranger to student bringing pieces to school. In fact, it is almost on a weekly or monthly basis that they're catching students armed and getting arrested on school premises for bringing these things to school because the parents have it. They have it loosely around the house, unsecured. Their kids grab it, take it to school to show off or to harass and racially intimidate other students. Meanwhile, when they get caught, no responsibility is placed on the parents. And if you watch the news in Lee County, you know that constantly on a week-to-week basis, somebody in Lee County is being found at a school. It's something that should never be in a school. Because of the situation with weapons, dropping off your students at a Lee County school is terrifying. I know a lot of parents who live in this county and they tell me that they're terrified to send their kids to schools because the amount of drugs and weapons that are in these schools. In Charlotte County, Florida, the drug overdose for African Americans is extremely low. In fact, they went for 4 years without a single black overdose. However, as you can see by that chart, the white population drug use and overdose death rate in Charlotte County is completely out of control, now above the state average. So we can see that drugs have inundated the streets of Southwest Florida and violence has increased with it. And to add another layer of complexity, racism is many times part of the drug addiction and violence. The first day in Gulf Coast High School, a police officer approached me and told me, "I'm going to either arrest you or expel you from the school." Before I even started my first class, I was already being threatened by a police officer who had had the word passed up from middle school about me. And I'm not going to lie, I was a pretty bad kid. But by the time I got to high school, I was really trying to get my crap together. And while I was horrendous in middle school, in high school, if you ever went to high school with me, you know that I was really trying to get my crap together, but I was constantly being harassed. On another occasion, I received 10 more days in enhanced assists from Gulf Coast High School in North Naples. On this occasion, a popular girl was harassing a girl who had depression. She might have been borderline autistic. She was definitely one of those loners, and a popular girl, for some reason, just kept picking on her and being really mean to her. When I tried to tell the girl that she needed to leave her alone, she came back with a mob of about 60 kids to try to fight me because she got offended that I told her to stop harassing or bullying this girl that was simply a loner. If you went to Gulf Coast High School that year, you definitely remember this event because it literally shut down the entire school as 2,000 students gathered. As I faced a mob of 60 students all by myself, the whole entire school literally had to be put on lockdown because of this event. Now, I was pretty much a hero to most of the kids in that school for doing that and standing up for this girl. I ended up getting 10 days in enhanced assist again for this event. And the people that came to me in the flash mob to try to hurt me, none of them were actually put in trouble. They had it out for me no matter what. And it didn't matter what happened. A lot of times you were just the victim defending yourself. But many times that's how racism works. It grabs you, the victim, trying to defend yourself and puts you in a situation where now you're the one getting in trouble, even though all you were doing is defending yourself or other students who were being bullied. Remember that I told you that the kid that was picking on me walked around with a cell phone on the outside of his belt? Remember that detail? Well, I was actually expelled from Gulf Coast High School for having a cell phone. The reason I had a cell phone is because I would go to school, and after school, I was managing a freaking landscaping company. At 15, 16 years old, I was doing what a lot of you guys as adults weren't able to do. I was really trying my best. But regardless, none of that mattered to the Corder County School District. All they cared about was expelling Hispanic and black kids, exaggerating or fabricating cases to ruin their absolute possibility of having an education, all the while looking the other way as white kids did drugs, brought weapons to school. All that was acceptable. But if a black kid or Hispanic did the smallest thing, they were getting expelled. So parents are really struggling that despite the fact they brought their families to one of the fastest growing and best places in the country to live, allegedly, right? That even here in the school systems, their children are being bullied, the school system's looking the other way if it's a white kid, but if it's a black or Hispanic kid, it's a great opportunity to expel them. And as we see with this viral video, well, there's no way to deny what was going on in that school in Charlotte County, Florida. And again, adjacent to that school, the next one over is Riverdale High School, a school that has been on the news more than once, a school plagued with violence, addiction, and students who bring all types of harmful things on campus. But regardless, it doesn't matter how grotesque the action of some of these students are. If they're white, they get away with it. But the smallest little detail could definitely be detrimental to a Hispanic or black student. Another review for Riverdale High School nearby relates that the school is just completely infested with drugs, weapons, and that parents are afraid to drop their kids off in school because the environment there is nothing more than violence, weapons, and drugs. And what's interesting about this particular area is that many of the new communities, gated areas, fancy new communities that are going in, both Babcock Ranch, River Hall, Buckingham, these are expensive, good areas to live. And then an increasing number of the people buying these homes are either black or Hispanic. These are families that have affluence and they're able to live in these nice communities. However, when they send their kids off to school, they're finding that these schools are setting them up for failure. I live this nightmare in Collier County, and I've seen how in Lee and Charlotte, many of the parents are afraid to send their kids to school, and the kids are afraid to go to school because they're being bullied and harassed racially. Now, this isn't a light situation. If you watch that video, the things that those kids did, it wasn't regular student bullying. This is some pretty hurtful crap that they did to this young girl, and I guarantee you, in her volleyball team, they were probably jealous at her ability, that she was probably better than them, as jealousy I've seen plays a huge role. As soon as Hispanic and black communities are able to afford better houses, afford better cars, and have better abilities in education and other fields, the first thing they encounter is jealousy and envy. But all that does is make you stronger and tougher, and I feel like a lot of the resilience that we have in Southwest Florida as blacks and Hispanics is that we're very resilient. We've been bullied, we've been pushed around, we've been discriminated, and we still beat the odds no matter what. As you can see from that first chart that we looked at from Charlotte County, this area wasn't violent and drug infested. These changes have only happened in the last few years. Since 2020, we've seen an incredible uptick in violence and addiction, and Southwest Florida is no longer immune to some of these violent categories. What is good, however, is that in Charlotte County, the African American community continues to have significantly lower drug overdose death rates, significantly lower death rate by homicide, and the same thing can be said about Collier and Lee County. So despite the fact that these communities are being discriminated, they're still living some pretty awesome and enviable lifestyles. Now, if you're sending your kids into these school districts, if you complain to the teachers about bullying or racism, absolutely nothing happens. What I recommend you do is that you record as much as possible and get some evidence and sue the school district for their responsibility and failure to act, because it's not going to stop happening. Julie Sprague, the teacher that got me expelled from Gulf Coast High School, a complete potato of a teacher, actually was promoted to school superintendent position right after I was expelled from the school. Yeah, they actually rewarded this teacher for having my case exaggerated and getting me expelled from the school, to the point that they rewarded her with a promotion. And that's been happening and well documented throughout the United States, where when a teacher or a staff member actually does something racist, they're promoted for being able to carry out racism within companies, within school districts, and they're actually rewarded for this type of behavior because the people above them are the ones who are encouraging them to do these type of activities. I've actually had the displeasure of having a personal conversation with somebody in a school district in South Florida. I can't say which district, but I personally know somebody that is a high-ranking district official, and I talked to them about the situation, and they simply do not care. They think inner city African American Hispanic kids are just complete trash, and they're trying to do everything they can from getting these kids simply expelled out of these school districts because they don't want them there. So imagine if the teachers who do these racist, covertly secret operations to expel these kids from schools are being rewarded by the people on top of them. It's a never-ending problem, and that is what Hispanic and black families have to face, not only in Southwest Florida, but throughout the entire country. What I find interesting is, despite the fact that Hispanics and blacks in Southwest Florida have better analytics, are starting to have better incomes in a lot of areas. Like, I wouldn't doubt that African Americans in this particular area of Buckingham and Port Charlotte, Punta Gorda, in this little area here, I wouldn't doubt that African Americans have higher income than whites. It's already happening in Port St. Lucie on the other coast of Florida, which is very similar demographically. They used to always pride themselves in the idea that all the crime and drug and bad things were happening in African American communities. Today in Southwest Florida, when you look at the murders that are being arrested and the people that are dying from drug overdoses, when you gather all the analytics and news reports, you can clearly see that the white community is the one that's dealing with drugs, violence, and even homicide the most. So they can't hold on to this narrative that it's the black communities now that are having a problem. It's actually the black communities that are having the best income, having the best analytics for crime, and that really hurts their pride because they've been priding themselves. They really feel that they're superior than other people, and now that we're starting to see income, crime analytics, when you flip-flop the fact that whites are now the ones that are doing these things the most in our community, and the Hispanics and blacks are actually thriving the most, that really hurts their ego because they really thought they were better than other people. And even though we're still being discriminated, we're still not being given equal opportunities in our communities, analytically, we're starting to do better. And that really hurts the racist people's egos. They really thought they were better. They really thought they won. But the numbers show the complete opposite. And it's a situation now where it creates a lot of anger on the part of racist people because they really thought, in the back of their minds, they really thought they were better. They believed they were better. But now when you see their communities plagued with violence, their schools having a lot of weapons, it's incredible how many weapons. And even though they're looking the other way, they can't hide the overdose deaths. They can't hide the murders. Despite all of their efforts to make it harder on Hispanics and blacks are becoming more resilient, creating their own communities, creating their own economic flow. And now the people that were discriminating us are analytically the ones who are dealing with the most problems in their community. And please believe that that hurts their emotions, and they're going to be very angry about it. And they've been trying to deny this rate. Oh, we would never do something like that, Jose. But now they can't. They don't have any self-control because the drugs are messing up their minds, and now they can't even covertly hide their racism. They're putting it out in the open. It's getting recorded with a camera, and now you can't even deny. The biggest tool these racist people had was denying the existence of racism. This would never happen. We would never do that. Well, now we're starting to get cases like this where it's undeniable what's going on in these school districts. Because again, the biggest tool that racist people have is misinformation and trying to say, oh, we would never do that. Oh, that's not really happening. But when you look at these videos, that crap is undeniable. So you can keep discriminating all you want to. Can I please get a Karen to say it doesn't matter?
Doesn't matter.
Thank you, Karen, for saying it doesn't matter. You can be as racist as you want. All you're doing is making these people tougher, more resilient. And I think the fact that we've been discriminated so much as blacks and Hispanics is one of the reasons we've become better and more resilient. And now the people that were bullying us are starting to figure out that their bully aggressive behavior has actually led them down a path of violence and self-destructive drug abuse that's actually making their lives miserable for real. So I want to send a very big thank you to all African Americans and Hispanic people in Southwest Florida who, despite the fact we've been discriminated, we've been abused, we've been harassed, none of that has made us weaker. It's only made us stronger. You're resilient, you're strong, and you're going to continue to be successful. And you have to have self-control. The violence, the aggression, and the hate for other people is not the solution. The solution is to pull out a camera, record them, put it on the internet, send it to the news, and then sue the crap out of them. It takes a lot of discipline. It takes a lot of self-control to win this battle that you're facing as a minority. When you lose your self-control, when you lose your self-discipline, that's the opportunity they're waiting for to pounce on you. So it's important for you to remain calm and to continue to be resilient and to continue to have self-control when facing racism, and make sure that you come out on top as a winner and that you don't get baited into their trap. And to the victims and the family that went through this nightmare, if you hear this video, I have a message for you. Continue being strong. They envy that you're better than them at volleyball. This is envy and jealousy. The reason these girls were picking on this girl is because they're jealous and envious that she's clearly better. Don't move out of your community. Stay going to the school. You earned going to that school. You worked hard to put your family in that nice new suburb. You deserve to live there. Don't leave your school. Don't leave your community. Sue the crap out of them. Have more money than them. And be the best thing volleyball player. The real reason that these girls are upset and they're picking on this girl is because she's got talent. And they're jealous that she's better. Continue being you. You deserve to live in this new community. You deserve to live in that brand new school. You deserve to go to a new school. You've worked hard for all these things. You deserve every last little bit of it, and don't let anybody take that away from you. Jealousy is what I see here. I know this story is really about racism, but when I watch that video, I see something else. I see jealousy and envy that this girl is able to live this amazing life. Because to be honest, a lot of Hispanics and African Americans are working hard to end up in these new suburbs in Florida. And it wasn't daddy's money. It wasn't an inheritance from grandpa. These people worked for what they have. Tomorrow, this young girl is going to be one of the greatest volleyball players you've ever seen. She's going to be a doctor. She's going to be a lawyer. She's going to be successful. And those kids that were picking on her are going to be on the ground getting Narcan from a drug overdose. I personally have had the experience of the children of the teachers that made my life impossible, me having to hand them money so they can eat because they're hungry and starving and homeless. So it's interesting how you don't have to hold on to that hate. When you see the kids of the teachers, the kids that used to bully you in school, when you see them on the side of the road begging for food, you don't have to throw a rock at them. You know what you have to do? Give them a warm meal and show them that you're bigger and stronger, because racism isn't won by hating back or by being discriminatory yourself. The best way to win with racist people is to show them that you are not like them, that you are better, and that you are not going to discriminate anybody, that you're going to continue to stand up to bullies, and you're going to continue to look out for the little man. I remember when I started kindergarten in Louisville, Kentucky. It was an all African American school, and there was this one Irish kid that lived in this neighborhood, and those African American kids picked on him, bullied him, and did all types of horrible things to this kid simply because he was white. But I also remembered that the African American kids liked me for being Hispanic, and I was afraid to stand up for this kid because I felt the retaliation would come if I stood up for them. So what you can do in your day-to-day life is, if you're a Hispanic person and here comes a Hispanic person to work for you on your property, pay them better, man. Give them an extra tip. Help each other, because the system is rigged up against you. So not only is the system rigged up against you, but also as a black person, how do you treat your black brother? As a Hispanic person, how do you treat other Latinos when they work for you? Do you pay them enough? Do you give them more tip than other people? I remember one time I was in Birmingham, Alabama, and I walked into a gas station in a very dangerous neighborhood. It was all black people. There was this one white dude. The white dude said things like, "Thank you, I'm sorry, excuse me, sir, and ma'am." He treated everybody with respect. The African Americans walked in. One guy walks in, "Man, get out of my way. You ain't crap, man. Get out of my way." And I told him, I told the white guy, I said, "Man, look at how you talk to these people. You talk to them with respect and dignity. That's your own brother, man. That's your own black brother. And this white guy is showing more respect to every person in this building than you are to yourself." So another aspect of racism isn't just how other people treat you. It's, as an African American, how do you treat your black brother? Do you tell your black brother, "Hey, you ain't crap, man"? No, that's not how you should talk to your black brother. You need to talk to your black brother with respect and dignity, because the system isn't going to support you. The majority isn't going to support you. But as a community, as an African American, how do you respect other African Americans? How do you treat other African Americans? Sometimes we are our own worst enemies. And that is something that we do have the ability to change, is how we as minorities treat each other. While living in Lee County, I got burned by so many Hispanic people. Now, I'm Cuban, I'm Hispanic, and I had been burned and I had been ripped off and dealt badly in business by so many Hispanic people that I personally wouldn't hire Hispanics, because I knew the propensity that they would try to rip me off or be unfair in business was so high. Why? Why are you treating your own people worse than people that hate you? It's a very good question as well that needs to be addressed, especially in Southwest Florida, where I, being a Hispanic, had to hire rednecks to do my landscaping and do my dump truck work, because if I hired a Hispanic, they would be more likely to screw me than anybody else. But you get used to getting kicked around, you get used to getting pushed around, discriminated by the big guy. You're afraid to face your bullies. So what do? You pick on your own people, cowardly. And that is something that is also a serious problem in Southwest Florida, where we as Hispanics and minorities are victimizing ourselves more than we are the people that are just, not that you should do that to anybody, okay? But learn from the idea that if somebody's discriminating you, either face it or put up with it. But then don't turn around and treat your own brother who's going through the same thing in a bad way as well.